Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Silver Scraps, the BOL edition. We do this show now for many different leagues, so we have to have separate editions. Isn't that fun? Joining me for the first time is the lovely Bickle over on the left, and in the center, some of you may recognize him from our ASL edition, the wonderful Arcs Knight, and then over here is the lovely caricature of me. My beard is not that shiny.
It can be.
It could be if I did some work to it, but
if you get that man brand thing that's going around right now.
Or I could just try to use Snapchat filters or something. I don't know.
True.
That'll
all
work.
If you put a Starbucks in your hand, you might pop out.
I am too old for this. Anyway, so what we're going to be doing today is I am not super interested in doing power rankings at this point in time. I'm going to leave all of that to Bickle. That is his department, I think.
I got a big one coming out eventually.
So, just for the record, we are recording this on Sunday night, August 7th. The league doesn't start until Thursday, August 11th. This unfortunately means that there may be roster changes and things that happen between now and then that we don't know about, and we're just currently going off of what the roster sheet says at this time. We're going to be doing a bit of an introduction to all the teams, saying what we know, saying what we think, and then we're going to be moving on with more deeper dives going in next week. 14 teams is a lot, and we can't guarantee that everybody's going to get talked about every week. I'm trying to keep these episodes to a point that people might actually watch all of them, rather than the 10 minutes where we talk about you. So with that, we're going to start with Tenebrous Esports Aeon, one of our many long team names with many different descriptors. I'll be honest with you, I do not really know any of these players. These are all people new to me. But overall, I like what I see. When you have a situation, right, where your highest ranked player is your jungler, and they play these kind of like playmaking junglers, like I see Volibear, I see Zac, I see some Fiddlesticks, it's generally a good sign. Jungler in this elo, as we all know, really does create a lot of tempo, and it can swing a game in your favor, particularly when you have weaker players in other roles. I know that in this league as well, we have quite a few cap exception junglers.
In 1984, when you became a PhD.
However, our top laner is looking like the weak player of the group.
Yeah, but top laner sucks. Top lane sucks in IBF.
Yeah, their top laner looks like they just recently role swapped from being an AD carry with Tristana FTW taken over there.
It's a really common thing, right, in IBS. People go, hey, we can just take anybody and have them play Malphite, Ornn, and Scion, and we'll be good, right?
Wishful thinking.
It often is wishful thinking, right? It can work, right? Especially if you're good at minimizing, which is a skill that I think you need to develop, particularly if you're the low-ranked player on a team. But getting better and doing more and being more proactive as a player is very, very important. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to stand up to some of the real better top laners in this league. But this is a roster where I really, really don't have a hard, like, this is where we're going. I can't sit here and say, this is a top team, this is a bottom team, this is just kind of I don't know.
Yeah, as a team, I believe their coach, Storm 9mm, said they came together a month or so ago, and they're still getting everything meshed together, so they'll probably improve as the season goes on, as every team usually does.
Yep.
But to start, I got no clue.
And it's important, especially if you're brand new, right? As I'm certainly no longer brand new, but I see a lot of brand new. To keep your head, right? This is different than solo queue. A lot of the players here are familiar with playing as a group and understanding how to play a more objective-based style of things. And so you don't see the same kind of mistakes and chaos that you do in solo queue. You enjoying your time with filters, Arts?
I'm trying, dude. The sun was like reflecting off my camera into my eye, and I'm trying to fix it.
You're perfectly fine.
You're
You're
good.
absolutely fine, dude.
When am I
Do you
not
have
putting on a show?
Do you have any thoughts about Tenebris Esports Aeon? Okay. So with that, our next team is the one and only TD Syndicate. I know some of us are very familiar with TD Syndicate.
Little bit.
Some of us may not be. Notable change, at least as far as this roster sheet goes, is Super Square 04 in the top lane.
That already got changed.
He's back to
Well,
jungle.
again, I'm sorry. Roster changes on the roster sheet, TD Syndicate. So we're not going to talk about TD Syndicate then, since we know that their roster has changed, and we'll talk about them next week. There really isn't anything to say. If we already know that this has been changed, but the sheet doesn't reflect it, we're going to move on. Knights of Thunder. So this is a new organization, I believe, an offshoot of the team in ASL known as Nameless Knights.
Knights of Oblivion, I
Knights
believe.
of Oblivion.
But it has Pandorum and Narwhal as
They're
coaching.
They're coaching.
It has OST also.
Yeah, so interesting. Okay.
Yeah, they're coaching the team.
So I know two of these players, right? QG Queen and Prince Sticks, right? Like, I currently play with Prince Stick in ASL. You may know him as Ballistic. Some of you may know him as Thanatos. He's been around almost as long as I have. In some ways longer, but I will claim the title of longest because continuous versus having ranked out previously.
Hasn't Ballistic's always been an 80 carry, though?
Yes.
Who? Sticks, yeah.
Yes.
Wait. Yeah, he was ADC for Monkeys in Training as EGG
Yes,
as well.
and he every time I've seen him as a starter, he's basically been an 80 carry, right? Now,
Yep.
That's not to say that he hasn't tried other things, right? We all have tried other things. I know that there have been many times that he has tried out as jungler for other teams, right? It seems to be some place that he is comfortable in. But it'll be interesting to see. I don't know if he's going to go like the merit route of just playing Graves and Kindred and other ranged things, or if he's going to be playing something more aggressive. We're not entirely sure there. QG Queen has been a bit of a mid-pack 80 carry for a number of seasons between RA and ZGG, I believe. But there comes a point, too, as we all know, that once you've been doing this for a hot minute, things start to click, things start to improve. But I don't know anybody else. I know OST, Pandorum, Narwhal have been around for a little bit now, and we'll see what they're able to do from a leadership angle.
Blop. I think Blop is going to mid lane and Aegis this week.
He is, I believe.
He is, and I believe Pandorum's going to support an Aegis with Narwhal ADC as Super Square gets put at jungle. So you will see Blop a little bit between the two. From what has been said in the chats.
I got no clue.
I got no
Your
clue
guess
either.
is as good as mine.
So we shall see, right? As far as the top lane thing, right? Hexane C. I don't know how you exactly say it. Gwen player, obviously, which is something I always love. Learning Gwen, it looks like. But you've got an Malawi one trick. That's always scary and interesting in IBS.
That's getting banned. Last time I saw an Alawi not get banned from a Alawi one trick, they went 19-0 against Fox's team in ZGG playoffs.
Yeah, I mean it's that kind of thing, right? When you have champions that you are that strong and comfortable on, right? 124 games on any champion in any role in one season at this point, that's significantly higher than the majority of IBS players put in on anything. And I think that there's a good third of the league that doesn't even have 124 games played.
Yeah. A lot of players still require games. And I mean, quite a few.
I mean, we've seen it too. You know how it goes, Arcs. Generally, the teams that start out poorly and grow over the season tend to be the ones that play the most solo queue.
Yeah.
It's important. I mean, growth over the season. We're playing to win, right? Playoffs don't really start until the end of September, so there's quite a lot of time between now and then to grow. Knights of Thunder is another one where it could go in a couple different directions, right? But like Tenebrous Esports, I think it's going to be a kind of situation of where do they go? Because I don't really have this team in that kind of top section of my mind right now. Any other thoughts on Knights of Thunder?
Keep opinions until after week 1.
Okay, that's fine, right? Like, I mean, it's really hard to come up with opinions. We haven't seen any of these people play, right? As we see,
curious to see Prince play jungle, and curious to see how well Queen actually does at ADC.
Yeah, we can see. GSG Psy, I believe this is your team.
Yeah, this is basically H's 2.0.
Yes.
Actually, and based on the sheet, Scout actually will be the starting ADC instead of Eddie. But that was like a flop because I'm planning on trying to get an ADC and a top laner different from the ZGG team, so they can scrim against each other.
I mean, I have high hopes of Scout, player that's flown under the radar in multiple roles so far.
But he looked good in the scrim, the ZGG scrim the other day against one of TD's rosters.
That's good.
But the rest is coming from Aegis. I mean, Midmaster, I think, is easily a top 3 mid in Aegis right now.
I would agree with that.
Squirrels, she has some work to do because she's role swapped from support to jungle, but she does very well when it comes to like putting the things that I offer her to practice. So I think she's going to be one of the people that's going to grow the most.
Support to jungle is one of the easier transitions.
Yeah.
Yeah, support is probably the best role to transition into jungle, and it has shown success in the past. Rocky used to be a support before he started jungling for us.
Yeah.
When I won ZGG for the first time, I went from jungle to support for that particular team just to fill out the roster, and it proved to be successful.
Man.
I've seen pizzas here around. I'm not sure where I've seen them.
He's been with GSG a little bit.
Okay.
He just kind of sits there. He played on a couple teams as a sub, but he's basically a big fill player.
There's some of those. We've got him on a guy like that on our rev team.
And then Star, he's been around on like every team I've coached. Once he learns how to peel, I guarantee you
Flash.
Have they started taking Flash?
He does actually. Everything like outside of maybe like Kench and stuff that has like a lot of mobility, he runs Flash on.
That's good. That's improvement.
That's improvement. That's improvement.
If you sit there and watch him play, once he knows how to peel correctly, the dude is like a top 2 support. Like, I kid you not. Like, it's right there, and he just is like one little step away from just being like one of the better supports.
He's got this, right? Like, and you have continued to produce at the worst, right, mid-tier playoff level teams, right? Over and over again.
Every team I've coached has made playoffs.
And generally makes it past the first round sometimes, except when your players show up drunk.
Feel like there's a story there.
There is. I remember a lot of shit.
That was actually second round because we beat the number 1 seed in losers bracket.
And then you got your butt kicked because you had a particular person show up drunk.
Yeah, our captain showed up drunk, and then he got kicked off the roster after game 1 by Dez, and then I had to swap the ADC for the first time ever.
Yeah,
and got rolled.
Is what it is. So next team, GSG Psy is one of my things, just based off the history, based off some of these players, and part of this being that I'm just more familiar of this is someone that I would put in the top section, right? I expect this team to be performing well. If they don't, I'm going to be asking more questions. Whereas if like some of these other teams that we've talked about already do perform well, it's less of a thing for me, if that makes sense. I don't have those expectations. It's the curse of me knowing you. Next team, Glacial Academy. I think this is our only roster of all the 14 that have every single slot filled.
I know one person on this entire roster sheet,
Um,
and he played mid lane for that Burger Flippa team.
who is that?
Squirrel Nest. That's Isaiah. That's the
that's
Akali one
Isaiah.
trick.
Oh,
Yeah,
he dropped the Katarina.
yeah, Katarina Akali player.
Yeah. I played Isaiah in the finals when I won ZGG the first time.
Now, the rest of these players,
interesting story about that time. His router got pulled in the middle of game 1 in finals because his mom wanted him to eat dinner.
That's painful.
It was 25 minutes of pausing in game 1.
That is insane.
You can check it out on the ZGG YouTube. That was actually one of the first series that Cole ever cast. It's a good series. Anyway, I am only plugging this because I play in it. Unironically, it's fun to go back and remember a time when elemental drakes didn't exist. And before the item changes. It's very weird and surreal to see.
This video is just going to be a bunch of links just put across the stream of like just Leopard games. Like every 2 minutes, there's like, please watch this.
What else? So this is one of those rosters where it definitely looks like their name, an academy roster, right? And when I see academy rosters, which are a fine thing, right? People do like playing competitive, and you have to start somewhere. And there's going to be those players on a team like this that there's something about the magic of playing with a team is going to capture them, and they're going to want to keep going. They're going to want to stay involved, and they're going to move on to other teams or stay. IBS Overtime is a very, very incestuous community. We all kind of learn to know each other just over time, even if we don't directly speak. And so I just hope that if things get tough for Glacial Academy, that they hold things together. When you have a roster like this, you're often better off looking at the long run, right? Is this a thing that I want to keep doing? And how can I learn versus just chasing after the immediate win?
I believe Humble Darius and You Cannot Say Pop have some competitive experience. I'm not sure from where. And I know Audio Cat and Jenny Penny both actually played low tier collegiate for some lower divisions.
I gotcha, yeah. Collegiate is always interesting because then you really have to deal with uncapped, right?
Yep.
If you can handle low tier collegiate when you're...
Yeah, they did some lower elo collegiate.
Yeah, that's good experience too. Any other thoughts of Glacial Academy?
I don't know any of these people, but I have a feeling that over half of them will not be on the roster by week 3.
Unfortunately, given the history of the Glacial as an org in the IBS space, that is not a baseless prediction.
That is my guess, based off my history of week 1 of ZGG and last split of ZGG.
And they withdrew from EDL too. So
sure, yeah.
Yeah. So.
This team is just kind of a big question mark, though that can probably be said for like half the teams here.
That is true, yeah. But like when I see 10 people on there, and then I'm a little more concerned actually than some of like, the 5 or 6 man rosters. But that's my perspective. Next, we have my sort of organization, Feed the Dream. Yeah. I know Arcs understands this. It's somewhat difficult to play for an org that you're involved with.
Yeah. I get that. I hate playing for the team org I play under.
There's just some added stress and pressure and second-guessing a lot of things. Like, I know that Azzy has played for FPD many times at this point. Even though she is involved on the admin side and the managerial side with Revolution. Right? It's a lot of the time it's easier not to do that. FTD isn't my org, by the way. It's Teams. I don't know how many times people have to say that, but they just associate me with FTD. Don't know why.
Yeah, they do.
I don't know why. But this is a team of absolute veterans. Like, I know every single one of these people. I've played with every single one of these people. Some of them multiple times. Chubby and I have played together on and off for the past year and a half. The top half of the map is my current ASL team. This is a team that, depending on their level of seriousness, right, is a threat to anybody.
I think if they play with the intention of like going hard, they can be one of the top teams in this league.
I
Absolutely.
think Mistake is probably one of the top supports in the entire IBS BOL league right now.
It's
as I'm looking through them.
the risk of this team, and I say this just knowing the people, right, is that Ghost Machine and Tamed are not like super strong, dominant laners. They both are going to show up and perform incredibly well in team fights, but it lends questions about where is Chubby going to focus and how are they going to play more so the early game rather than team fights. And that's just something that's going to have to be figured out. Just knowing how we've gone things with ASL, which was a very, very much more casual venture for us, a lot of things are going to depend on how they decide to practice and the level of seriousness, right? But I expect this team to start off slower than some of these others.
I can see it. But I
Fair.
can also, depending on the schedule, I can also see them starting off very strong.
Yeah, this is just based off raw talent and experience, though. This is a team that you cannot count out at all.
Well, they're off to the races to start because their first game's against TD Syndicate.
That's always fun.
There you go. And I honestly, like, I'm looking through both sides. I personally believe that this side is the weaker side of the two.
I also believe that.
I agree.
It's not like a close margin either.
The first irrational prediction that I have is I don't really see a lot of the teams from this side making it past the first round of playoffs.
I can see 3 teams doing it, and that's maybe it. But who knows?
We'll see. Who knows? It's irrational, right? We haven't even.
I think a big part of that is we know 3 teams here relatively well player-wise, and the rest are more question mark.
That's also very, very true. That's very true. Last team on this side, Eden's Blazing Stars. I
know 2 of these.
I am familiar with Twain, and I've scrimmed this team, but that's...
So, I Hate People was Gameaholic. He was on one of my Shogun rosters.
I remember that guy.
As the support that almost came in when it was Shogun 2077 and TD, was it TD Shadow? And he came in and they almost reverse swept the series when he came in after game 2.
Nice.
Damn.
Like, he came in and he completely carried games 3 and 4, and then Dez wouldn't listen to him for draft game 5, and they ended up losing.
That is unfortunately a thing that happens.
That was the last Tafiki full series that you've seen Tafiki in, outside of him subbing for BD and Worlds.
Unfortunate.
Other than that, Twain's the only other person
This is a team, just given that I've scrimmed them, right, that I expect to kind of be in the middle, right? Like, it's a team that if you are a worse team from them, you're going to be kind of struggling. And if you're a team that above them, I don't think you're going to have too much issue, just especially starting out. But like, my expectation for this team is that they kind of function as the gatekeeper. This is like
I can see that.
A 5th, 4th, 3rd kind of team.
That top laner is a Echo One Trip.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm looking at this, and it is.
It's a lot
not
of
even
Echo.
Close. It's like there's no
Yes.
second champion.
No,
it's just Echo.
It is 100% Echo, right? And when we scrimmed them, it looked like a very, very recent transition. But as time goes on, and as you get more comfortable that top lane and get comfortable with what your job is in that team, because top lane is the least defined job in IBS, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like what you want or what you need out of your top laner is different from every team. It's not like we can say that every support plays Leona and Nautilus.
True.
I will be disappointed if the mid laner Rakan Stan does not play AP Rakan mid at least once.
That's a fair disappointment. That is an absolute fair disappointment.
Same. I would be disappointed.
Alrighty.
Here first.
So that
Here
is
first.
all we have for yeah. What are the divisions? This is
that is Zaun.
This is Zaun. I think it's pretty clear that we have some familiarity with these teams, and those are the teams that we expect to do well. We've got a bunch of question marks, right? I am way more familiar with a lot of the players in Piltover, so there's more to talk about, but we'll become more familiar over time, right? We're going off of a sheet with no games. So honestly, the only reason you should listen to us is the fact that we're putting this out on YouTube. Okay, with that, we brings us to Whooper Academy.
Best name of any team, best logo of any team.
That is an amazing
True.
logo. It is an absolute amazing logo.
There's a new Whooper, apparently, that I found out by looking into Aegis chat the other day. Apparently, Pokemon released there's a new form of Whooper.
Yep, and the newest Scarlet and Violet, I think it is?
Yeah, something around that, yeah. I think that's the name.
Let's throw it in the oven real quick.
Now, my history with this team is I've actually had the BOL team scrim against this team because they're on gangster.gg quite often. Like, if you look on there, they're at least on there like 3 days a week. And they're not bad. Like, they play pretty solid. I think their top laner is really good. I think he did pretty well in the scrims. But in terms of like other roles, I think that they're just a solid team that's going to be playing together a lot, and I think they probably will surprise a lot of these teams.
It's just they're just the one question mark that I have about this particular roster, or not this roster, this particular side, right? Like I have way more familiarity with everybody else on this side of things. I mean, SNC Sunset Ravens is still unfamiliar to me, but I am aware of who SNC is, right?
Yeah, we know who SNC is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a little experience with their mid Lost Havoc and their 80 carry Soul Sniper. I think their 80 carry's pretty good. Their mid laner's solid, so I think they'll be decent.
But this team's going to be the one team that I think will improve the most. One of those teams because they're practicing a lot.
Yep.
Yeah. Practice matters. It matters.
Yeah.
But also, like, there's the flip side, right? Where every team has a finite life to it. And sometimes practice and scrims dramatically shorten that life.
Don't burn yourself out.
Don't let the resentment build up between players, right? Because some teams, they take the arguments, they take the issues that will occur. I don't care who you are. You're going to have arguments, you're going to have issues, and they blow the heck up, right? People leave. There are some people that historically that have been known for this, right? Regardless of how their reasons are, they're often the ones that leave teams in the middle of the season. But other teams are able to resolve those issues and keep moving forward. And guess which ones tend to perform better?
Some teams make roster changes every week. Some teams make roster changes never in the entire split.
Yep. So next we have SNC Sunset Ravens. So historically, at least, SNC has been a very, very, we'll call it, one tricky novelty org. I don't mean that like in a bad way, right? They tend to play, each team, SNC team I have seen in IBS, has tended to play in some sort of unconventional manner and start off very, very strong. And then as their unconventional strategy gets figured out, they drop.
Now, the last SNC team I saw had a really good support, but they ranked
SNC Talon.
Yep. And that's exactly what I mean, right? Like it's you have a hard mage support that is roaming more than the jungler, right? Like you have
Now,
a
this
farming
support-
jungler and allow the roaming support to do it, right?
Yeah.
And I've seen
With
it.
Zoe, with Ari, with Nico, with Zareth.
Yeah, just weird
Just these
stuff.
weird picks
But-
that nobody's used to.
Right, but once teams are aware of it and got used to that, it kind of just fell apart, right? So it's a question for me of how SNC is going to play. Given when people name change, like I have a feeling that I might know who SNC Big and SNC Grim are. I just don't know because name changes.
Mhm. I think I've seen what bot lane before. That name looks familiar,
It does.
but I might just be having nightmares when I think about myself in bot lane. But who knows?
True. Who knows? So SNC is the other kind of question mark here, right? But just given history, I do expect them to kind of be doing well from the beginning. This is like
I can see it.
SNC's like third split in IBS though, so like they tend to know what they're doing.
Yeah, for sure.
So next we have Revolution X. We're not going to talk about Revolution X. You want to know why? Because the roster doesn't resemble what it is on the sheet anymore.
Wait, really?
There's only one real change.
Yeah, I thought that there was only like one,
Yeah, it's just
But-
one change.
and it was made today. It was just
New jungler.
Rocky
It's-
going to sub and they adding
Yeah,
another
new
sub.
jungler, rest of
Yep.
the team's the same.
Reigning Wolves is going to be the measure by which all other top laners in the league are measured by. And he's good. Somebody's going to have to show up to take that top spot from him.
He is the best top laner in this league until proven otherwise.
Yes, and that's based off history, right? You might, in every other league that I have ever seen Reigning Wolves play in as a top laner, you might have one, maybe two, if you push it, top laners that can compete with him. But it's always been debatable, even in those circumstances. So, unlike a lot of teams, this is a team where we can almost certainly assume some top side focus, whereas most IBS teams are playing through your bot lane.
I'm kind
With
of
Reigning Wolves and just Fritz, they're really going to be playing around their solo lanes, I feel.
Yep.
I'm kind of sad though because I just watched Pack and Pack actually win lane against Reigning Wolves,
That's nice.
and I'm sad to see him not in BOL. Actually, now that I
Sometimes
think
your
about it.
schedule can only support one lead. I know Pax
Yeah.
over in ZGG. And
That is true.
I absolutely hope that he steps it up, right? Like it is time, right? Like
Yeah,
you show the flashes of brilliance, right?
he just needs to communicate. That's all he has to do. That's his biggest flaw. He doesn't talk.
So I think the next team. Amazing Spice swap from mid lane in EDL to AD carry. Great move. Very, very calm, reliable player, especially when you're somebody that's capable of hitting like 8-9 CS on Orianna. Transitioning to the bot lane shouldn't be too much of an issue.
Yeah, and then we have Fritz in mid lane.
Yep.
Question mark. A little bit.
Just a bit.
High highs, low lows.
Yes.
Yeah, either does
So
really
there-
well or he does really bad.
And there's some players that are just like that. And that's I've seen Fritz do great things when he's on a good team, and I have seen Fritz look absolutely awful when he is on a bad team.
Yep.
Uh,
I think Leopard just wants to hurry up and talk about his own team.
no, I really don't. I really don't. I don't ever talk about my teams. It's more that we're like halfway through, and I know that you have a league to get to.
No, we're fine. We're over halfway through.
Okay.
It's okay.
No, I think RevX is definitely like an easy favorite in this league, right? Like it's
Yeah.
either between them and one other team that we'll get to.
True.
At least for now, right? Like this side of things looks very much unfortunate that a really, really solid team is not going to make playoffs.
Playoffs is top 4?
Top 4.
Top 5?
Top 4.
Top 4. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
4 from each side.
Oh,
I like that.
damn.
I really do like that. This left side though is going to be really close. It's going to
Yeah.
look like Aegis just did from like the 3rd through 7th seed.
Yeah.
Up until like week 8.
This is going to be.
It's how Aegis would have looked if they kept the original groups.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what would have.
Yes.
GSG wouldn't have made playoffs.
Neither would a DTF, right? So, actually, DTF might have had an easier time if they hadn't changed groups.
Yeah, you definitely would have had an easier time. I think you made playoffs pretty easily.
Yep.
Yeah.
GSG was out, and they were like no wins.
Yep.
All their wins came from the other group.
Yep. And it also coincided with you doing a massive roster overhaul, so you can't truly say that.
True.
Sometimes, I know we've disputed roster changes here. Sometimes, if you are after winning or a better environment, you just have to do it.
Mine was for the better environment.
And you have to, and when you do that, it's better to do it early rather than wait. Like, I don't mean, if you start to see cracks show, sometimes it's better to just deal with it now.
The sooner you address a problem, the better.
Because it's not about the regular season. Like, left side, the early season matters more, right? Where you really have to be conscious of trying to get there, you know? But as long as you make playoffs, you have a chance. At least regarding ZVP, right? 4th seed has won the championship just as much as the 1st seed has. Next team is my team, unfortunately. Revolution Anarchy. And according to the staff at Revolution, our team chat resembles the name.
Sounds about right.
You guys can talk, I'm not.
Ha ha. Yeah, Leper not wanted to bring up his own team. Leper has swapped mid for this split like he tried in the past. He's sticking with it this time. And I think what really is going to be the biggest point for Revolution Anarchy, I can say this having scrimmed them, having watched them scrim, is they have a very solid bot lane. Titan Brawler and the Yes Parade are an extremely sound duo that can make a lot of stuff work.
Yes Parade, is he an ADC main usually, or is he?
He is a support main who used to play AD carry.
Okay,
when he was playing with us, he role swapped to AD carry, and he's back in his natural position of support.
I was about to say, I noticed he played a lot of games with Ashe, and I'm trying to figure out if it's support Ashe or if it's ADC Ashe that I'm looking at.
It's both.
Yes.
But I think support Ashe is a very strong support laner right now, because it's really hard to play against it. So I think like that is going to be a phase 1 ban every game that he's going to pull. Just saying.
This is one of those teams where they're just about everybody on the team has some serious phase 1 bans that you have to be conscious of.
Yeah, like Leper, you got the Vex and the Nivea.
Yeah.
And the Garen. If you
And
don't
the
know
Garen.
Leopard's Garen, you don't know Leopard's Garen.
Absolutely, Garen.
Yeah. Please play melee champions into me in mid lane. Please do it.
Leopard, how do you, I had to play against a lethality Garen the other day with Predator.
How do you deal with that?
Yeah, how do you, as an ADC, how do you play against that? Because I was ran down, and from tier 1 tower to tier inhib tower within like 3 seconds. It's not
Yell at your tanks
do you
to
want
peel.
the honest answer? You don't do it
what-
alone. Because that entire build, right? Like, that entire build is around one-shotting one particular person very, very suddenly, right? Like, the people that
Called
play
the buddy
crit,
system.
The crit or lethality, the crit or lethality Garen builds tend to just hard side lane and tend to like pop up, blow somebody up very quickly. But the issue is that if you're doing that, you're very, very prone to dying because Garen surprisingly doesn't have the greatest natural health growth.
Rev Gold's the sub. I was hoping Rev Gold was the starting jungler because I saw he plays a lot of Nidalee, and I was
Tristana jungle.
I know. I was hoping to see
name
Nidalee
change now to Heretic.
Witless Heretic.
Yeah, so that now we don't get confused when Titan Brawler is playing Tristana.
That is fair.
That is fair.
From my perspective, being in the team, right? Like, this is a team that has to grow a bit to compete with the top, but has the ability. right? Especially when the games go to this team's strengths.
I think they have a really solid foundation to build upon, and given some time to kind of work out the kinks and their weaknesses, they can become a really strong, solid team.
But next we have Iconic. Now,
Iconic. This is the big question mark. I'm surprised Merit's allowed an IBS.
gold
But-
for a cap exception. Nope, wait.
Not besides a gold for cap exception.
Nope.
He didn't hit gold last season.
Could have no, then it must have been flex that he did.
Hold up. Merit.
Anyway, that's a discussion for after the game, or after things. No, he hit gold 4 last year, and I know. That's what it is. Crow is not. I don't believe.
Nah, Crow's
Crow counts as one in ZGG because of the way that ZGG looks at multiple seasons, I believe.
Yeah.
And it's season 9 that Crow hit gold.
Yep.
That's it. That's the answer.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so-
I hit the wrong button. So we're gonna have to
Uh-oh.
cycle through all of this because I did not set my shit up right.
You're
I
breaking
was like,
things.
who needs a hotkey to move back to the previous slide? That'll never come up.
The answer is you, apparently.
So,
Never.
Alternative Crow is this is his second season as a top laner for Iconic, I believe. No, he played for MIT in ZGG last split.
I was going to say, I think this is Iconic's first IBS team.
Yes, it is. They've been trying it for a while, right? Like, I've played with Minami and Nub the Scrub. I've played with Merit. Crow has been playing in and around the comp scene longer than I have, so a very, very old head. Death for Kill, I don't know. Monkey, I played with in my first IBS split in summer 2019.
Now, my biggest question mark with this roster, though, is that Merit only plays one kind of jungle.
Yes, regardless of champion.
Yeah, it's only one thing. It's revolve around him and make him the carry.
Very, very skirmish heavy historically, right? And it's very, very blueprinty, where either this works and we are winning the game, or it doesn't work and we are losing the game.
Yeah.
And that's not to try that. That sounds like we're making out Merit to be a bad player. I don't believe that, right? It's like you have a player that is very, very indexed into one particular thing, and if they're able to pull it off, it's unconventional, particularly at an IBS level, and it's going to take over games.
Wonder how Merit's going to play at the start of the season. He's only played 3 ranked games in the past 2 months. Actually, 3 months. He's only played 3 ranked
Damn.
games.
Okay, well, you got to get him up. You got to have 10 in the past 21 days, I believe, for BOL.
Yeah, he has
Sounds about right.
2, I think, in the past 21 days. 11 days ago was he played 2 ranked games and got hard stomped. And
I don't know. That is a question that the coaching staff at Iconic are going to have to figure out. But this is a team that carry junglers are interesting, right? This is what we were talking about with gold 4 cap exception junglers, right? Where sometimes when your best player and your player that is in control of the game is your highest ranked and most experienced player in that way, it often lends to great success because they know what they're doing, they understand laning or will understand the game a little bit better, so that they're better able to take over the game. Nub the Scrub and Minami are great players. They have some high highs, they have some low lows, right? I'm eager to see, guys, I played with them in EDL. I'm eager to see what they do in a healthier environment with some more consistent coaching and leadership than what we had together. This is another one that I kind of look at Iconic in the same way that I do Eden's Blazing Stars from Zaun, where I kind of look at this team as somewhat of a gatekeeper, right? Where, like, this is going to be the dividing line between top teams and bottom teams.
yeah,
Fair.
Any other further thoughts on Iconic?
I mean, it looks like they have a bunch of players that played ADC at one point.
Yes.
I think 3, it looks like, and then they had looks like
Crow used to be a
support
jungler
player.
before he was a top laner.
Yeah,
All the role swaps.
Yes.
yeah, it looks like a lot of role swaps outside of Merit.
Yep. Minami and Nub are like sort of pseudo fill players where they play two or three roles comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
Crow, I don't know. I haven't talked with or played with Crow in a very long time. But this is one of the big other question marks for this particular division group. City from Arcane, whatever you want to call it.
City from Arcane. Now, hot take. Is there going to be more MF played on this side and more Zeri played on Zon's side? Or what's going to go on?
Given Nub the Scrub's love of Zeri, I think that we're going to have more Zeri on the Piltover side.
I think we offer the trade Glacial Academy and Iconic. I think it might even out the division a little.
It might. Or we say that now and Glacial Academy is a top team and we're like, yeah, that would be a horrible idea. Yeah.
I mean, Iconic then could be the worst team and it's still even out.
We got no clue.
We have no clue. So, Hyperion Galaxy. Hortensia and some other people here.
It's weird it's weird seeing Ghost Machine not on Hyperion.
Well, when it's I completely get it, right? When you have a good team and you have a team that you feel works, right? Sometimes you inserting yourself is a little different, right? And there's also the aspects of there's a lot of second guessing and question marks when you are on a team, right? Especially when you're playing poorly. It's really easy to blame. But Bickle coaches this team, so Bickle can talk about his team.
Bickle, tell us about your team.
Don't know how I ended up in this position. So I was originally playing for this team, hit Gold 3, couldn't play IBS anymore, so now I'm apparently a coach. But, yeah. So, Top and Jungle, Baron, and Kai are actually brothers that are getting into the IBS scene. Hortensia, you had mentioned, has some IBS experience.
Yep.
And then the bot side of Whales and Ginger are getting meshed out together and working together, and things are working together pretty decently. I'd say they've come a long way since the start, and I'd say they're going to keep improving. They can make an impact as time goes on. It's just a matter of seeing how they grow. Because once again, growth is going to be really important for every team here.
Mm-hmm. I think honestly, the playoff teams are going to be the teams that grow the most. I think you might have one or two teams that might just like powerhouse their way to it from the beginning. But I think the majority of playoff teams will be those who probably look better at the end than they do at the beginning.
Yep. It'll be so much easier to talk about all these teams once we actually see them play.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Exactly.
It absolutely will. That brings us to our final team, I think.
GSGI
Oda.
A team that usually does very well during the season and all right in the off season. ZGG is very hard to count when you win a champion.
Well, it's also ZGG doesn't allow a gold floor cap exception.
Yeah, ZGG. I think I love ZGG for that. I think it's great that they stick to IBS, and because like a lot of gold cap exceptions end up carrying the entire team.
Yep. But if you listen to some people, they couldn't possibly ever, in any possible way, find enough players to make an IBS roster, Uwu. Without a gold floor, I could never make an IBS team.
Hey, if you ask Glacial Academy, I'm sure they can help you because I don't know where they get these players from. But I really think Doki's and Soloq asking players to join his team and sending them to Glacial Academy.
I wouldn't even say it. That has been one way that Doki has gotten players for wrong in the past. Yes.
Wait, was it ZGG that someone sent like screenshots of him in a game asking people to play?
Yes. No, that is a thing that Doki has done in the past, right? No, there are a lot of ways that you can find silver players, right? Especially given that a lot of silver players don't know the scene, right? But that's just the difference, right? The thing that we can say, right, is that you have in this league, this is the mid-jungle with the highest synergy.
True. And then their bot lane's different.
Their bot lane's different.
One hand making the rolls, I guess.
He was
and
always
the
an AD
IB
carry,
Yeah,
but
the IBS
yeah,
roll swap
yes.
from top to ADC. I knew he played ADC. 'Cause I always wondered that when I looked at his OP.GG.
And
But
then
he
yeah,
won a downfall and want to show off his true colors.
yep. And then Squad Fam going from sub to getting being the support. Snuggle
I did-
taking a break basically.
Yeah,
And then
Snuggles done.
and
He's done.
and then Terriermon, who some of you may know as Momentai, some of you may know as
Yeah.
Balls. Really good top laner.
He is.
Really good jack of all trades
I
that
think.
does best top.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the biggest question mark is the support positioning.
Yep. In the bot lane.
I know. Yeah, I think 'cause, like from what I've seen, like when Squad Fam plays, the team generally does worse in the bot lane. And I'm just comparing that to their old starting support,
Right.
who was really good.
Yes. Who you have on your team.
Yeah, aka Chubby, who's on my
Who
VGG roster.
he is one of my favorite players I have ever played with.
But I'm excited to see how they play. It's gonna be weird not seeing Snugglebot and OMG on the just Summoners Rift at the same time. For sure.
It should
Mimic
be.
and OMG is such a solid foundation that no matter what is going on around them, you can kind of count on that stability.
Yes.
You can.
Himic and both of these players have somehow been criminally underrated their entire competitive careers, and I don't know why.
Mimic never gets enough credit. Timic is such a good
He's
job.
not a flashy player. He's not a
He
flashy player. But sometimes people definitely go for flash, right? But there's something to be said for a jungler that is often right there when you need them, without you saying anything.
Exactly.
I will say, having scrimmed this team, right, despite the roster being different, right, they do certain things, especially without people like me or Snuggle there. I don't mean that in a bad way, that are often very, very difficult for IBS teams to handle. When it's all gas, no brakes.
Yeah.
When you don't give your opponents any time to breathe, it can often be very, very difficult for other teams to deal with. But yeah, no, to me, this is potentially one of the top laners that can compete with Raging Wolves. But this remains to be seen. Overall, I think we have a very, very solid group of teams for a BOL. It's going to be sad to see 6 of these teams go, because this might be one of the most competitive IBS leagues ever. I like to see that the top and the bottom are close together. That's what I want to see out of an IBS league.
I think the league as a whole has a lot of good teams and is a lot of balance. I'm really excited, particularly for Piltover, because I think there's so many solid teams there that no matter who the top 4 is, you're going to be like, damn, how did this team not make playoffs?
I agree. I think every single one of these teams, I think every game is going to be close.
Yeah. It absolutely should be, right? And especially over in Zon, right? We don't know what teams are going to emerge. We don't know what the story is going to be, because there's so many new faces.
Zon has a lot of question marks.
Right. And that's not to say that Zon is weaker. We don't know, right? It's
just unknown. It could come out that all these unknowns are like, oh my god, these teams are amazing, and suddenly Zon's the stronger group.
Right. It absolutely can be that way. But overall, I think that this is going to be a solid first week. Some teams have a bye, unfortunately. Other teams don't. Games are going to happen. Who's our stream game? Let's talk about our stream game. Do we know?
Do we have a stream game listed? I can take a guess who it will be.
It's going to be GSG Iota and Hyperion.
Oh, really?
That's a solid game.
For week 1, yeah. So there's a stream matches tab under BOL content, and they put a screenshot of all the games being streamed that week.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
So that's cool. It answered our question right there.
Perfect.
So you'd have to be hard pressed, just given the consistency and the core of this roster, for me not to put my money on GSGIO.
I think my money is going to be on GLACIAL for the sake that they play together more. And I mean, I don't know any of these players really outside of Hyperion. And you said so yourself, they're just getting into it. So going with
Like-
experience on week 1 versus
And on
They got
stream.
a hell of a team to start with, honestly.
yes,
Like, I like my team. They're great people. I don't want to tell them this, but I will be betting against them week 1.
Sometimes that's the way it's got to be, right? And I will not be sit here and be surprised if Hyperion takes a game here or
No.
takes the series, right? That's what can happen. But
I hope that happens.
but as a coach, I mean, like you have to be realistic. So I mean,
Exactly.
like, if you know your team's not good enough, but you know they can be in the future. I mean, it's not wrong to be like, oh, I don't think they will win, but there's always a chance.
Exactly. Do I think they are the top team in the league right now and can beat all these people? No. Do I think they have the potential to continue to climb and give a lot of these teams a run for their money? Absolutely. Come playoffs, I think, give me this match. I'm like, yeah, I can see this going either way. But right
Absolutely.
now, it's a lot harder because they're a lot newer team going up against a team that is such an established foundation.
absolutely. So I think with that, unless anybody else has any thoughts, I think that's going to wrap it up for our preseason week.
Looking at the schedule, we got Feed the Dream, TD Syndicate,
That's a good one.
That's going to be a
and
good
then
one.
we have Whooper Academy and Iconic,
That should also be a good one.
Potential.
which I think will be a good game because there's a lot of players that
Yep.
will be known to play. We have Leper versus the bye week, a pretty long time rivalry right there.
I suck at bye weeks.
I might favor the bye week here.
I know we've talked about some of these players, right, where they're very, very streaky. I am certainly one of those players.
Well, in this case, at least you're getting the bye week out of the way to start.
That's very true. That works in my favor as much as I would really like to play next week. Just a reminder that I thought about. This league does use tournament codes. Please grab your tournament codes. There is stats. I know that they have worked quite hard on making a stat spot for everybody, which makes our life easier over here. So yeah, this is going to be an exciting split of Blue Otter League, or as I like to call it, the Blue Pup League for IBS.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this has been week 1. I am Leper Koopa. That's Arx. That's Bickle. There may be some other faces returning from Silver Scraps lore for this. Who knows? And with that, we're out.